Welcome to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where today's top influencers and entrepreneurs on the rise share empowering stories and ninja tips to become the fuel that ignites a positive change in your life. Our guests don't simply coast through life. They don't let difficult situations stop them. They set big goals, keep their eyes on the prize, and they're joining us today to share insider secrets you can use right now to step into your power and live your purpose. Now, here's your host, Christy Ruffino.
Our guest today is Louie Sharp. Louie is a nationally renowned world-class keynote speaker with over 11 years of professional speaking experience. He has been seen on NBC, ABC, and CNN, as well as delivering keynote speeches for distinguished companies such as DuPont, Edward Jones, Sage, Fender, and Axalta. I'm not quite sure what that is or if I said it right, but it's called Axalta. And most recently, he shared the stage with Jack Canfield. Wow. Louie served 20 years in the U.S. Marines. His service included travel to 21 countries guarding American embassies and flying Huey Helicopters. He was the vice president of sales for Sound Enhances, a global company, and a successful business owner in his own right. Louie has started, bought, and sold companies. He started his very first company at 23, and 38 years later, it is still going strong. Louie often donates his time speaking about leadership, self-confidence, and success to the less fortunate and abused. His forthcoming book is called The Gifted Leader: How to Grow Your Business for More Profit and Freedom. Let's get on with the show so you can meet Louie.
You're listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where you learn to step into your power and live your purpose. Now back to the show with your host, Christy Ruffino.
Welcome to today's episode of the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast. My name is Christy Ruffino, and I'm very excited to be introducing you to today's guest, Louie Sharp. Now, I met Louie, oh my goodness, a couple years ago, and we were in a speaking organization together. And what struck me with Louie is that he was a true servant at the heart. He was always reaching out and asking to connect with people. I remember he even reached out to me and said, "Oh, I'd love to have a talk with you and find out what you're doing so I can help you and serve you." And because I didn't know what I was doing, I never took him up on that offer. But since then, we've become kind of really great friends. He's been a really great mentor from afar for me. I love what he's doing right now with his business. And I can't wait for you to get to know Louie as well. So thank you, Louie, for joining us today. This is going to be fun. I'm so excited to have you on as one of my guests.
Well, thank you, Christy. I'm humble and excited to be here.
All right. Well, I always like to start our conversation or our interview into basically having the audience get a peek inside Louie's brain. Like, who is Louie? What is your story? How did you get to where you are now? Because you have multifacets. You do a lot of things. And I'd love to have the audience get to know you from a personal perspective by you sharing your story.
Sure. So I think I'd like to start in high school in how I'm involved in so many things. In high school, I couldn't wait to get out. I couldn't wait for my life to begin. I wanted to go see the world. I came from a family that really didn't have a lot of money growing up. I knew college wasn't an option. So I enlisted in the Marines when I was still in my senior year of high school. I worked that summer and then left for the Marines in October and really never looked back. I spent 4.5 years on active duty. And it's funny because one of the guys, the last guys I worked for, was my boss in the Marines, was an alcoholic. And so I got off of active duty and I started as an apprentice in a body shop in Arlington Heights at the time. And it turned out, as fate would have it, that he was an alcoholic as well. He had a company meeting, and I think there was 11 or 12 of us at the time. Now, this is 1981. He stood up and said, "I'd like to make $50,000 more for me this year, but I can't afford to give anybody a raise." So I stood up and said, "I want my check. I'm done." And a bunch of other guys were like, are you crazy? What are you doing? I said, did you hear what he just said? He just told all of us that he expects us to work harder and we get nothing. It's all about him. And so at that point, I broke out on my own. Literally, I started in a one-car garage that had no heat, no running water. I started with $500 in my toolbox. That was almost 40 years ago. Sharp Auto Body is still going. I now have 10 employees. Had 10 employees for a while. And it was funny because I never really set out to be in business for myself. I actually went into business because I was going to go back to school full time. I've been working full time during the day and going to college at night. I saw an ad in the paper and there was an ambulance company that was looking to hire a body man. I called up and I said, you know, you don't want somebody coming into this building where all your drivers are sleeping overnight and fixing your ambulances from accidents with Bondo dust and paint fumes and all that stuff. So I ended up contracting their work. And at that point, I made the decision to go into business full time and gave up college. And as they say, the rest is history. In that process, I started a towing company. I bought a mechanical repair shop. I sold the mechanical repair shop. I sold the towing company. I still have the body shop. I started my speaking consulting business. So, there's 40 years in there, but that's kind of how it got started. And I think that I still have wanderlust. I still love to travel. For me, it's some people are really drained by traveling. It really energizes me. I think of it as an adventure. And so I love to see new places, experience new things, new cultures. But I've always been curious. And I think that when you're curious and you're not afraid to try new things, then you discover all kinds of things that you're good at and things that you like to do and have fun at.
Yeah. And so you have, you're crazy because you think it is fun to speak, or at least maybe you have another purpose for speaking because you are building a pretty successful speaking business and a consulting business on helping other people kind of elevate their businesses through speaking. So tell us a little bit about how you kind of got into that world.
Well, that's a great question and a great story. So I went to a one-day Jack Canfield event for personal development, personal growth, and they were taking applications for this program called Train the Trainer. And to be honest with you, up to this point in my life, I didn't even know that professional speaking or motivational speaking was a thing. But I went to this event, and so I filled out an application. They said they were taking applications from people around the world, and they did. And they said that they would give you a call to interview you. Well, I never got a call. So I figured, well, they just didn't pick me. So then one day I get a phone call and they say, you've been accepted. And I said, what happened?
Louie, you muted yourself for a minute. So you got a phone call. Now I can hear you, but you were muted for a moment. So you got a phone call and they said you were accepted. What happened next?
So then I go to the program. It's a year-long program. And I find out that one of the reasons why I was selected without an interview, because I was one of 2 veterans that they took into the program without interviewing us, because Jack Canfield wanted his work to get back to the veteran community. So then, because I ended up doing a total of 20 years in the Marines, but the rest of it was was reserves. And then I did active duty for 14 months for Desert Storm. So during this year-long training called Train the Trainer, a woman named Lisa Nichols came in and spoke to us. And she basically told us her story. And she had us laughing, she had us crying, she had us laughing, she had us crying. And at the end of the story, she said, I shared my story because I want you to know your story matters. And in that moment, it was like the sky parted and God struck me with a bolt of lightning. And I realized in that moment that everything that had happened to me in my life, all of it, had happened for a reason. Because I was abused as a child, and then I did the time in the Marines and then started a business and all that stuff. And so when that hit me, you had to do homework. And one of the things you had to do in this training was you had to go back home, because it was 3 weeks of live training with Jack Canfield in a room. You ended up with 86 people from literally around the world. And all of them, the majority of them, I'd say 90% of them were already business coaches, consultants, speakers of some sort. And here's Louie being the body shop guy thinking, man, I'm in the deep end of the pool without a life preserver. And so you had to do at least a half-day seminar, and you had to do a keynote speech. And so a friend of mine got like 50 business owners in a room, and I went out, and it's weird, Christy, because it was like I'd been doing it my whole life. And to this day, I tell people, I don't get nervous. I get really excited for it to start, right? But I don't get nervous. I don't have butterflies. I don't get, queasy or lightheaded or any of that stuff. I just get really excited for it to start. And then I've had some experiences. So I play guitar, and I've played in bands for the last 35 or 40 years as well. And I've had nights on stage when people have come up to me after a set or at the end of the night and said, man, you were awesome tonight. You were playing out of your head. And I tell them I was, because that it didn't come from me. It came through me. And the music just flowed through me. So I can tell you that every time I speak, it usually takes 4 or 5 minutes. And then for me, it's the Holy Spirit. You can call it whatever you want, but it just moves through me. And I tell people that if you saw me do a keynote speech and you wanted to interview me immediately after and held a gun to my head and asked me to repeat it, you'd have to kill me, because I practice really hard and I research and I live what I talk about, and I have a PowerPoint, and I prepare like everybody else. But once it starts, I just let it go. And that's when the magic and the miracles happen. And I'll just tell you a real quick story is I was doing one of my one-day seminars, and the story of my dad dying came to me. And it was nowhere in my notes, nowhere in my PowerPoint. And at the end of the day, I had 3 different people come up to me and say, this was a great day. I got so much out of it. But that story about your dad dying changed my life. Well, that story about my dad dying, but it came to me. And so I just let it flow out of me.
Right. So I think I remember somebody telling me a long time ago that, because I've been in engaging speakers for a while, I've been in Toastmasters forever. And, being a speaker is one of the things that I am working on. It's a skill that I'm trying to get better. But I remember one of my mentors told me is that you need to memorize your message so you can deliver your soul. And it's kind of like the same thing you're saying, because you've done your homework, your purpose, who your audience is, how you want to serve them, and you just show up and you let the magic happen. And that is a great place to be, because you're not forcing it anymore. It's like just coming together in such an authentic way.
Yeah, I think, and I thank you. I appreciate that. And you're right. And that's when and this is what's amazing, right? Whether this is speaking in front of a group full of people, speaking in front of a team in your company, or even a relationship one-on-one, or a conversation like we're having now. If you can be transparent, genuine, and authentic, you're going to hit the mark every time, right? When you're trying to be BS and somebody that you're not, and this is a great example of where I pray for humility on a regular basis. You're a smart, attractive, successful woman. It would be really easy for me to want to dominate the conversation and be the expert on everything, but you bring as much to the table as I do, just in different ways and with different experiences, right? And so when we can be that authentic and genuine and present, then it really is who we are. And, I say this all the time, anything that comes from your heart will touch the heart. And so when you let it flow from your heart, whether that's your wisdom or your humor or whatever it is, it's going to be felt. Humor, I think, is a great example. There's really cutting, sarcastic humor that's delivered to hurt people, or there's humor that's self-deprecating or mutually funny where nobody gets hurt. But the right humor comes from love and from the heart.
Love that. That's a great quote. I love that. Anything that comes from the heart will touch the heart touch the hearts or touch the hearts of many. I love that.
Yeah. And,
Great.
and you've seen it happen in engaging speakers, right?
Absolutely.
I just go up to the front of the room. I'm not busy being the smartest guy or the funniest. I'm just busy. To your point, I showed up to be of service.
Serve. Yep. Yep.
And sometimes being of service is funny. Sometimes it's tough love. Sometimes, right? But I just show up to be me, right? And I've let go of you needing to like me or me needing to have you like me for it to, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think we all get tied up in our message isn't for everybody, right? We're not meant to date everybody. We're not a good fit for everybody. And so when you realize that here's something that's really important, I think, whether you're speaking and in business, in any relationship or anything in life, is if you were to get mad at me, it has nothing to do with me.
Right. It's a story that I'm telling myself about the situation.
Right. And so if you get mad at me and I can hold my space and say, okay, I'm just going to be light and love and realize that you're mad at me and I can't change that and I have no control over it, I still get to be light and love and have a great day.
Right. Right. That takes the pressure off, right? When we don't have to please everybody and make everybody happy, we're actually able to serve more people that way because now we're being authentic and the people that we really can help are going to become coming to us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Christy. At that point, we become magnetic.
Yep.
You know, and you and I are a great example. We haven't done a whole lot together, but we've done a whole lot together in a different way. You know what I mean? Like in the room, across the room.
Absolutely.
I've always admired and respected you. I've told you across the room in front of everybody. I love your style. You just have a very unique style that's very professional yet casual and kind of laid back, very approachable. And what's cool about that is the more work I do on me, the more I'm able to speak from what I feel. I feel that when I see you, I feel that. And when I give you that feedback, you can't not feel it. Right. And then at that point, you know, I'm authentic and genuine. And in a male-female relationship, you also know I'm safe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, we need to have those reassurances now and then. And that will, for me, the more reassurances I have when I kind of live into my authentic self, that helps me become stronger and braver to be more authentic. I think, I don't know if this is a female thing or not, but many women, we just want everybody to like us. And it's okay to be polarizing. It's okay sometimes to create those maybe not so raving fans, because I'm not going to be relating to the people that I can't serve. Like if I am not relatable to them, I'm not really going to be able to help them. So if I can be more, you know, the badass motorcycle chick that loves working with women entrepreneurs, if I can live into that more, I am going to be able to serve the clients that really like that about me.
Right. And I think there's two things that you touched on in there. And one of them is there's a great Styx song, and the lyric is, deep inside, we're all the same. So men crave the same thing, right?
Okay.
We all crave love and attention and affection, and we all want to think that we're loved by everybody. And we, you know, everybody thinks we walk on water, and that's never the truth, but men crave it as much as women. I think the other thing too that I love about our relationship is I think that more men and women, and I think this probably lives more on the men's side, is I love you and I have no sexual or romantic inclinations towards you. And so we can get to this place in male-female relationships and in men to men and women to women where we can love each other with no ulterior motive, no sexual or romantic inclinations. And when I give you that love, you can't not be more authentic and real, because again, I've become safe and you're safe for me, right? I wanted to come on here because I knew these kinds of conversations were going to happen, right? That we could talk about love and spirit and authenticity and genuineness, because those are the things at the end of the day. If you want to be successful in business, you have to be all those things.
Right.
And you're right. I'm going to say something that's not going to make some people happy. That's okay. You know, and I think people get in trouble because when you take on clients, some people don't have any filter or any screening system. So then you take on a client that's not a good fit, and now you get a bad review. And
Right.
one of my favorite quotes is, you can't hire people to do your push-ups for you. Jim Rohn said it. And so you could hire me to grow your business, but if you're not prepared to put your face in the dirt and do the push-ups, it's not going to work. And then you're going to leave the relationship thinking, man, that flipping Louie, he guarantees such and such. Well, none of it happened for me. Of course it didn't, because I didn't screen you well enough to realize you're never going to do the work to begin with.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I like that. I mean, honestly, the bottom line is, you said earlier, we're all the same inside, and we're all brothers and sisters of Christ. I mean, I know your faith, my faith. And if we can just see everybody in the world like that, and I love everybody always, how can we just, even if it's somebody that we don't agree with, their perspective is right to them. Doesn't have to be right to us. We just have to respect that perspective is right for them. And you know what? Sometimes I have the best relationships with people that started out challenging, and that's okay, but we stuck with it. And now, we're on the same page, and that's kind of it's a neat transition to go through that.
Well, that's great growth, right?
Yes.
One of the things, and I think that you're right. One of the things that Jack Canfield said, if we're all pointing to the moon, what does it matter that you call it Buddha and I call it Allah, or that you call it God and I call it infinite source? But you will kill each other over that. And you're right. Just let them be, because you're not going to change their mind anyway. Right?
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day, we all are connected.
Yeah.
We're all in the same pool. I tell people, whether you're hating the president or hating broccoli, you're peeing in our collective pool. And there's, and that negative.
I love that.
You're putting out negative energy, and we're all living in that negative energy. You can't hate anything and not think you're putting good energy or vibrations out into the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, sometimes when we have those people that are challenging for us, or that we feel that resistance with, sometimes we need to take a look at ourselves and see what is that in us that's creating that resistance. And so if we're always moving forward in growth and with love, we can't not win. We can't. We're going to keep winning. We're going to all keep winning together. Love it.
So I love you, because you just said something that's very powerful. Here's another writer downer for those of you in your audience that are taking notes. If you spot it, you got it. If you spot it, you got it. I can tell you that my first wife, who's passed, God bless her, we went to a wedding one time, and an old buddy of mine was there that I hadn't seen in a long time. And so I spent a fair amount of the night talking to him. Well, she went around intentionally flirting with guys, trying to make me jealous. And then on the ride home, I got in trouble because I didn't get mad that she was flirting. And my point to that is I didn't spot it, because jealous isn't who I am.
Right.
But I love that when you show up in front of me and you're pushing all my buttons, the only way you can push my buttons if it's alive and well in me. So if you're being obnoxious or whatever you might be, and I'm obnoxious too, now I'm unhappy because you're stealing my obnoxious spotlight. But the only way you can trigger me is if it's alive in me. And like we talked about before, now's my opportunity to grow, because it has nothing to do with what you're doing. It has everything to do with the fact that obnoxious is alive and well in Louie, and I got to go fix Louie.
Yeah. Well, and I had the same situation with my ex-husband, because he kept accusing me of doing something wrong, and it turns out he was the one doing something wrong. So if you spot it, you got it. Love that.
Yeah.
That's a great writer downer, that's for sure. So Louie, if you don't mind hanging tight for just one moment, I want to take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back, because I know you have some great, more wonderful writer downers for us, as well as some great wisdom you want to share.
Sounds good.
Great. Well, welcome back to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast. We're back with Louie. Thank you, Louie, for continuing to share your wisdom and your brilliance and your humor. Definitely love that you are always sharing some funny quips here and there. You always make me, you always make me laugh, but in a good way. So I know you are a skilled business leader and a coach. Do you work with who are the clients that you work with?
I normally consult businesses and corporations that are looking to improve their proficiencies to get profit and time.
Great. Okay. And so you also do a lot of keynote speaking and different kind of speaking opportunities. Do you prefer to speak to big corporations, or who is your audience for your speaking topics?
Usually I've spoken to large corporations as well as companies that might have, 50, a couple hundred people. I really enjoy speaking, and I'm very blessed because I've so many experiences and the things I've learned over the years. I cover a wealth of topics, but specifically I like to go in and do leadership around sales, productivity, profit, and time.
Oh gosh, all very, very important topics to really talk on. So sales is a key thing. So if we're looking to become better with our sales process and enrollment, what are some tips that you may want to share with us to get better in that area?
Sure. So one of the first things you have to do is have great clarity on who your target market is, right? I love to tell people, if we're having a conversation and you say you're looking for anybody or somebody, I think of nobody. And so you want to be clear on who you're looking to meet. Once you know who that target market is, for example, realtors are really bad at this, right? They'll just say, I'm looking for anybody to buy or sell a house.
Yeah.
So we think of nobody. But one of the things I'll share with a realtor, for example, is a target market is college graduates who don't want to waste money on rent and want to buy their first house. So we'll use that as an example for a target market. So then
that creates the light bulb moments in our brain. And who do we know that is that person?
Right. And so if you've got, and I know you're blessed like I am with grandchildren, but if you have children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews and they're graduating from college, you're absolutely right, Christy. They instantly pop into your head because I've given you somebody with clarity on if you know them, they pop into your head. And then what you want to figure out is, what is their pain? What are their challenges around either working with a realtor or buying a house? And then what you want to do is, once you figure out what that pain is, you want to figure out your solutions to it. And that becomes your unique selling proposition. Most people, now this takes some energy and some legwork, but if I was to interview 1,000 people graduating from college and say, what's your pain or your fear or your concerns about buying your first house, I'd get a bunch of answers, but I'd get 3 or 4 that are going to come to the top, right? And then what I do is I figure out my solutions to that, and then that separates me from all the other realtors. I cringe when people say, I'll ask them, what makes you unique? And they'll say, well, I've been in business 25 years. I said, that doesn't make you unique. Somebody could say they've been in business 30, 40, 50, right? Well, I have great client care.
Right. Customer service. I excel at customer service.
Right. And somebody can just keep one up in that, and that's just trash talking. But if I can, and this isn't now, so I mentor high school kids, and this is what I tell the high school boys. Actually, I tell the girls the same thing, but it's a kind of a different twist. But I tell the high school boys, look, if you want to date the prettiest girl in school, and I get that the prettiest girl in school is an objective thing, but the prettiest girl in school for you, what you're going to do is, you're not going to run up and ask her out. You're going to go ask her friends, hey, what kind of food does she like? What kind of movies does she like to go see? And so I said, so if you find out she likes romantic comedies and she loves Mexican food, you don't run up to her and ask her out to a war movie in a Chinese restaurant.
Right. You want to be very specific into meeting her needs.
When you're doing sales, you're doing exactly the same thing. By finding out what their pain is and then developing your solution to it, then you're creating what they're after. And before they even tell you out loud what they need, then you've already told them the results they're going to get. It's almost a slam dunk. So if you're the prettiest girl in my school and I go up and ask you out and I say, hey, Christy, would you like to get together for dinner sometime and go see a movie? I know this great new Mexican restaurant that opened up, and there's a great Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore romantic comedy playing. And you'll think the sky's parted and God's finally sent you your guy, right? But all I did was do my homework.
Right.
And so your clients are no different. Find them in that target market, right? When I do business consulting, I tell people in 60 to 90 days, I guarantee I'm going to put more profit into your bank account. I guarantee it. But I can tell you, they're going to have to do the work. But now they know what the result is. Name a business owner that doesn't want to make more profit.
Right.
Right. And how to make more profit in less time. And when you get a target market and a unique selling proposition that works to that target market, you're going to get more leads, close more deals, make more money, reduce your marketing budget, AKA you're going to make more money in more time.
Yeah. Then you don't have to spend a lot of time on those long, painful sales conversations because you already are meeting that person where they're at and you're showing them that you can provide them the solution they're looking for. So it's just a matter of them saying yes.
Right. And imagine, and so to go back to the high school dating thing, what if you're a lesbian and I'm going to ask you out? Well, my sales pitch is never going to work because you're not my target market.
Right.
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 And I don't have, and I'm just using that as a really clear example, because once you're selling to your target market, and that's that, this goes back. I love how this all comes full circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this goes back to what you said in the first segment is we're not going to be loved by everybody. We're also not going to be able to sell to everybody. We're going to sell to the people that we're fit to sell to. What are we good at? What do we really excel at? Who do the people we excel with, right? So there's, like I said, there isn't a business that I can't make them more profitable, but they have to do the work. I'm not going to go in and run their business. I'm not going to go in and do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's the same thing, but we got to let go of that trying to serve everybody, because it never works trying to serve everybody or make everybody happy.
That's honestly one of the biggest obstacles that I find when I work with my clients is they want to be so generic. They feel like if they exclude anybody, it's going to hurt themselves. And they feel like they're going to be leaving money on the table, but why would they want to be a generalist if they can be a specialist? And once we're a specialist, that's when we can really make the biggest impact. We're not going to go to a general doctor if we need brain surgery. We're going to go to a brain surgeon. So if we can shift our mindset into believing that if we can niche it down, if we can get very specific in identifying who our ideal clients are and how we can best serve them, that's when our business is going to just skyrocket because we're able to really create huge transformations for our clients.
You're absolutely right. And people, that's that scarcity mentality.
Yes.
Right now, I think there's 9.6 billion people on the planet.
I know. Right.
And so just imagine if you were a realtor, there is no way you could serve all the people graduated from college this spring. There's no way.
Right.
Right. And I love your example of a brain surgeon. How much money does a brain surgeon make an hour?
Exactly.
God.
Exactly.
And how much does the general practitioner make an hour?
Yep. I know.
It's all in that, and then because once you're in that sweet spot, then you really get good at it, right?
Yeah. And then that's when you become truly magnetic. You don't even have to market yourself. Your clients will market for you. Your people will market for you, because now if there's ever the need, they're going to be like, oh, go to Louie. He can do that for you. You can become very, very niche specific. And now you're rising above the crowd. You're like way up there.
Yeah. And it's funny because before COVID hit, I didn't have to work to get speaking gigs. There was always somebody in the audience that saw me and said, they'd come up after me and say, hey, can you come and speak at our organization? Can you come and speak at our events? and or they have me back. And it's the same thing, right? And if I can help you with your profit, I can also help you with process. But now I've got that credibility. Who do people want to do business with? People they know, like, and trust.
Absolutely.
And once you get your foot in the door with your specialty, that doesn't mean you can't still bring your rest of your bag of tricks with you, but your specialty is what gets you in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, Louie, this has been phenomenal. So much great things that you're sharing, and it's been a great conversation. If our audience wants to connect with you, how do they do that? Because I know you have, your website we're going to have in the show notes below, and you've got a great gift for the people if they want to reach out to you. Can you share what that is?
Sure. I'd like to share with everybody 11 strategies on how to develop and create your unique selling proposition. And that's going to be a free resource. They just have to go to info, INFO, at The Gifted Leader, all spelled out, TheGiftedLeader.com, info at thegiftedleader.com, and I'll be happy to email them that PDF.
Wonderful. And all of those links and website and email address will be in the show notes below. You can just go ahead and reach out to Louie, and I know he or somebody on his team will be able to get that PDF to you right away. And thank you so much, Louie. Any last final words?
Yeah. First off, thank you very much. I love your energy. It was a pleasure being here. And if I was to die tomorrow and I could impart one piece of wisdom for the entire world, is whatever you want from the world, get busy giving it first.
Yes.
If you want love, give love, it'll come back, right? If you want peace, give peace, it'll come back. You want money, give money, it'll come back.
So true. Love that. All right, Louie. Well, thank you so much. And I will be seeing you soon, hopefully in person, at one of our engaging speakers events. You know what? Let's go ahead and throw the link. I'll throw the link for that resource in the show notes as well, because if anybody is catching this episode and they'd want to connect, we're meeting virtually. So either they can connect on one of our virtual meetings, or maybe one of our local meetings, or maybe even launch a chapter in their area. So thanks again, Louie.
You're quite welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams once they've learned the art of mastering their story. Mastering our stories is the key to everything we want in life. Our stories can either hold us back, or they can propel us to new heights. We can choose. You can choose. Choose to overcome mediocrity with us. Let's achieve greatness together. To learn more, visit www.overcomingmediocrity.org. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.